All right, AP Psych. This is kind of starting to finish the consciousness and neuroscience unit up. So here we talk about sleep, talk about the stages, the influence of the brain activity during sleep stages, and then talk about the circadian rhythm too. So we first look at the sleep itself. First thing we need to look at is our circadian rhythm. This is your 24-hour cycle that includes your sleep and wakefulness. It includes when you're hungry, when you eat. It's basically your body's adjusting to your normal eating patterns, sleeping patterns, wakefulness patterns. That's also why usually when we first get back to school, it's hard to readjust. It's hard to get up because we're resetting our 24-hour cycle from summer. If you ever experience jet lag, this is the neurological effects. Your circadian rhythm is off. The sunlight is messing up the production of the melatonin. So when we look at the circadian rhythm, the neurology of it, the light itself is going to enter the eye. It's going to trigger the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is located near the pineal gland. And when the light hits that nucleus, it's going to trigger the pineal gland to decrease melatonin production. And then when there's less light, it's going to increase melatonin production. So that's why, like when time change starts to occur, when it gets dark earlier, you start to usually feel tired or sleepy earlier. And that's just because it's the light, and that's what really affects the pineal gland, the melatonin production, and your circadian rhythm. So the different brain waves we look at, obviously brain waves themselves are going to measure the activity of the brain, just like an EEG. During consciousness or semi-conscious states, you're going to emit 4 types of brain waves: beta, awake, active, or dreaming; alpha, awake and relaxed, reduced activity. You can think of kind of meditation, daydreaming here. The more TV you watch, like if you watch a lot of TV, your brain will kind of stop producing beta and go into theta wave or alpha waves. And that's one of the reasons it's suggested that screen time and TV time should be decreased for younger students, younger children, younger teens. The third is theta. This is deep sleep or deep relaxation, light sleep. And then the delta sleep, this is your deepest sleep. So here's where we look at the different brain waves. Notice beta, there's a lot more activity. Alpha, there's a little less. Theta, a little less. And then delta, there's a lot less. So that deep sleep, that's when your brain is going to be at its slowest activity. So sleep itself, characterized by unresponsiveness to the environment, highlighted by limited mobility. Why do you have limited mobility? So you don't act out your dreams. Because if you acted out your dreams, you could think you're flying, and who knows what could happen there. Why sleep? Obviously, recharge, conserve energy, and rest. Sleep cycle itself lasts for 90 minutes. So usually, if you're trying to take a nap during the middle of the day, unless you're so sleep deprived that you can do a power nap, 90 minutes is the only way you're ever going to experience some type of relief, because you have to go through all the different stages to really truly recharge. So power naps, these are going to work. This is going to go against the 90-minute cycle theory, but this is the idea that if you nap for like 10-15 minutes and you feel ultra refreshed, that's your body and your brain's way of saying you need a lot more sleep. So they go into REM rebound. The problem with REM rebound and the power naps is the more you engage in that activity, the more disrupted your sleep will actually become. Like your sleep is supposed to be 8 hours, usually 8 hours straight, so you can get that full rest and recharge. If this is happening a lot, this is going to impede brain activity, brain processing, and even brain development to an extent. So, non-REM stage 1 sleep, this is your lightest sleep. This is usually when, as soon as you decide to lay down, you're going to start going into this type of activity. Similar brain activity to a daydream. So you can still think, you can still process information, but it may not be as quick or as active as it would be during an awake and fully conscious state. So here you have that stage 1 sleep. Your brain activity is getting a little less, and then stage 2 the brain activity gets even less. So during stage 1 sleep, a person may experience that falling sensation and awaken suddenly. This is not a dream, but mostly resembles a hallucination. I always look at that as that usually happens to me when I'm not trying to fall asleep. So it's almost like it's the brain's panic. Wake up. You don't want to fall asleep. Wake up. But it's not a dream. Even though you feel and you can see that you're following, your brain is not as active as it is during a dream state or the beta wave sleep. So it is not a dream. It's a hallucination. Non-REM stage 2 sleep. Awakenings or arousal do not occur as easily in stage 1, so obviously what we're trying to show there is it's a deeper sleep. Brainwaves continue to slow with specific bursts of rapid activity known as sleep spindles and K complexes. So like if you would look at the theta waves, it's going to be long, it's going to be slow, and then it's going to be these bursts of activities. We're not totally sure why these occur, but we're thinking that these sleep spindles and K complexes, the first thing, they're starting to dampen your brain's reaction to sounds, sensations around you. And then the other thing we think is it's probably involved in memory processing. So it's trying to prevent you from being awoken. And it's also trying to protect or help you with those memory processing. Non-REM stage 3 sleep. Stage 3 and stage 4, this is where the delta waves start to come in. So this is where we start to engage in really, truly deep sleep. Contrary to popular belief, it's delta sleep that is the deepest, not the REM. So you're in deepest sleep before you start to truly dream, and this is the most restorative. It is delta sleep that a sleep-deprived person's brain really craves. So that's when you have those, even having trouble staying awake in class or staying awake to watch a movie or a TV show you want. If you're falling asleep, your brain's trying to take you into delta sleep because you need it. In children, delta sleep can occupy about 40%. Why? Because they're still growing. Their body's still developing. They're going through a lot of change. So they need a lot more deep sleep. And this is where the body starts to grow, repair the cells, and releases those growth hormones. So people who are shorter, if they come from taller parents or their family's tall, one of the reasons they're probably shorter is because they didn't get a lot of deep sleep as a child. They didn't sleep a lot. Their sleep was always broken. So the body had less time to release those growth hormones. And then stage 4, this is going to be our REM sleep. So after reaching the deepest sleep, the sleep cycle starts to move back towards the stage 1. So although you're still asleep, the brain is going to engage in what we call beta waves. So the brain is going to be very, very active, but we're still asleep. So this is why this is called paradoxical sleep. Because most of the time you will experience what we call sleep paralysis, so you don't act out the dreams, but your brain is highly active. So we're not totally sure why this is happening. It's obviously serving some type of physiological process or protection, but this is why it's called paradoxical sleep. Your brain is most active, your body is least active. And here's where we look at the different stages. Notice stage 4, we have those deep delta waves, and then you go into the REM. So you'd go stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, REM, stage 3, stage 4, stage 2, stage 1, stage 1, and then you just keep going. And here's where we look at those sleep spindles. So notice low activity, low activity, low activity, and then this burst. So what we think here, this burst is either to A, dampen the brain's response to the sensations in the outer world, in your environment, and it's also designed to process, consolidate memories. So that's where we look at those sleep spindles and K complexes and sleep spindles. Here's where we look at the difference between a normal sleep brain. Notice it's not as active. Notice the hippocampus is still active. So we're always processing memories through our sleep stages. Here's your REM sleep. So notice the burst of activity. So notice his visual cortex, occipital lobe's lit up, so he's probably seeing something. Temporal lobe, hearing something. And then his frontal lobe, is he is actually probably processing and making decisions in this dream. So we're all probably in control of our dream to an extent when we look at the frontal cortex active during dream stages or REM sleep. So that's it for sleep and sleep stages. Just make sure you know the description of the different awake and consciousness stages during sleep, and then know the brain waves with them too.